This is Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman.
Hey, welcome back to Midweek Politics. I'm David Pakman. In studio with us is Bill Newman, attorney with the ACLU of Massachusetts, and you can also hear him on our show. The ACLU Minute is this 90-second podcast that you produce. You really run the gamut with the topics, everything from tasering at baseball games to Google stealing your information, right?
That's all true.
So why do so many conservatives dislike the ACLU?
That's really interesting. Obviously, it has something to do with some of the positions we take, although it's interesting, of course, you take Oliver North, who has been a spokesperson for the ACLU after the ACLU defended him, and Congressman Bard, we defended him, and he came to work on the ACLU National Security Project. So there are many conservatives who, in fact, are members of the ACLU, support the ACLU, give money to the ACLU, and accept the assistance and are in really work with the ACLU a significant number of times. There was an old statement from Ira Glasser, the former executive director of the ACLU, that said the ACLU is sometimes accused of being promiscuous because we do have a rather odd assortment of bedfellows, and it depends on the issue. But for example, when we come out in favor of freedom of religion and defend religious speech, some people say, wait a second, what's that about? And on the other hand, when we come out and say we're opposed to the death penalty, some people say, well, wait a second, now where do you get that? And what if the Eighth Amendment is the answer? So we have a very broad portfolio. We defend all of the Bill of Rights, and sometimes we make enemies and sometimes we make friends. But why conservatives? I think it's an overbroad statement to say conservatives don't like the ACLU. I think some conservatives like to try to use the ACLU as a whipping boy.
Sure.
Fox, for example.
Well, sure. I mean, Bill O'Reilly for a long time, and I don't know, it may be because of issues, but at this point, I think it's grown to be bigger than itself. He lists the ACLU in his laundry list of far-left organizations, as he calls them, that are trying to move the country in a direction that middle America doesn't want, right? I mean, is that the framing we're hearing?
Well, I think that's what he does. I think it's goofy. I think it's wrong. I think he knows it's wrong, but I think it probably helps his ratings, so he'll do what is necessary to help his ratings. And if that helps him, well, I'm sorry if it does, but so be it. It's wrong. It's just he's got to know it's wrong. He's not a stupid guy. So he's got to use it for some other purpose, and maybe it's convenient to say that.
We had Shirley Phelps Roper on recently from the Westboro Baptist Church, of course known for the God Hates Fags slogan that they're so well known for. And the Supreme Court, I think it's in October, will actually hear a case involving them protesting at a soldier's funeral, and the plaintiff is the father of that soldier. This is an interesting case for a lot of reasons. It's the first time the Supreme Court has said they would actually hear a case about the Westboro Baptist Church. First of all, it's very subjective when free speech turns into hate speech that is no longer protected, right? How can we kind of decipher, how can the average person figure out what's what?
The Westboro case is an interesting case, and what happened is that Phelps and his family, and I think a few other supporters of
family
church,
members, essentially.
Were they all family members?
Most of them are.
Were quite a distance away from the funeral of a Marine who had been killed in action in Iraq, and they came to protest with the hateful, really disgusting speech that you've alluded to.
Right.
And they held up signs, and before the funeral started, they left. That said, the father of the Marine who was killed brought suit against them and collected a very large judgment against them in the federal district court. The case went to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Which is the next level up.
Between the trial court level, which is the federal district court, and the Supreme Court, which is the end of the road. And the trial court really left it up to the jury to decide what speech was protected and what speech wasn't protected, and kind of allowed the jury to say, well, because it was just a general verdict for the defendant or for the plaintiff, and it was for the plaintiff. And so the jury might have, under the judge's instructions, given hundreds of thousands of dollars for this statement or sign, which was protected speech, and might have given hundreds of thousands or $1 million for speech which was unprotected. And it was a mishmash, and you really couldn't tell. And the case went to the Fourth Circuit, and the Fourth Circuit said, right, there's a problem here with how this trial was conducted.
And they overturned it.
And they overturned and it goes to the Supreme Court. What there there is not a question about is whether or not the state has a significant interest and a valid interest in allowing funerals to go on uninterrupted. That's not at issue. And the state has that right and has that authority, and people have a right to bury their loved ones in peace. That's true. That said, what the court said and what the ACLU position would be is that there has to be a place for protesters on the street and on the sidewalk. That doesn't mean they can yell and scream and interrupt the service, and that there can be some distance, much as we have those buffer zone cases involving abortion clinics.
And the content of the signs they hold, whatever it is, that part is protected?
Well, it depends. If it deals with an issue of public importance, then it is absolutely protected. If it is a personal attack on an individual, that's a different story.
So if the signs, and I don't know, if the sign said your son died because of whatever in the U.S. homosexuals, that may qualify under directly about the people. If it's a general, soldiers are dying because of homosexuals, maybe not. I mean, is it that nuanced?
That's slicing the bologna pretty thin. That is the kind of problem that comes up. It says, are you attacking that person? In which case, if you're trying to intentionally inflict emotional distress on an individual, that's actionable. You can be held liable for that. If you're making a statement that U.S. soldiers are dying in support of a nation that supports gay rights, in their own way that they would actually write that.
Sure.
They're allowed to say that because that's an issue of public importance and debate. So again, it's dependent. Is it directed really personally at an individual for the purpose of hurting them, or is this a statement about a matter of public importance?
Midweek Politics is brought to you in part by Jackson & Connor, classically modern men's apparel in Northampton, Massachusetts on the second floor of Thorne's Marketplace, and by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.